so just got back or off work, so got the big block in the back. Sorry, trying to drive at the same time. Big blocks in the back, and we're on our way home, so we'll see how this goes. Oh, and we got all sorts of big block speed parts down here too, so luckily Mose was able to hook me up and I was able to get everything taken care of. So hopefully we'll have this big block ready to run in a couple months or so. Gotta get it to the machinist, have him look at it, figure out what bottom end I'm gonna do. So she made it back. Just swapped the transmission in the truck the other day because burned out the last turbo 350, so kind of a trial by fire. Third time driving this truck into town, so everything's here. It's really exciting. I can't wait to pull this thing out and start tearing her down. All right, we got the engine hoist, so now we can finally get this thing out. Had to wait a day to borrow my brother's, but yeah, we have a bunch of random engine stuff going on in here, but unfortunately there's been a mad flood going on. But we've got engines. Yeah, plenty of them. Engines. We got a 5.3 right there, 440 big block, and the diesel 6.2. But there are, many more to come. But yeah, you'll have to check out his channel. Is it Fixed Build Engineer?
Yes, that's my car channel. So
with the 68 Charger, which is over here. He's dailying it now. Let me get my car door out of the way. But this is his 68 Charger. We recently resurrected it after 8 years of not moving. We just didn't have the money or time. But it's back on the road, and he dailies it all the way, probably an hour to work and back. And pretty heavy traffic out here near Atlanta. Hoist and everything, and we're ready to run. Don't mind the truck, it might be misfiring a little bit. Plugs are old. I have new plugs and plug wires. Hopefully that'll help it run a little bit better. But we're ready to go. Got that OG stereo still blasting. That's copyright. Anyways, we're ready to roll. Alright, so the engine is on the stand. After a very sketchy time of trying to get it on there, my little brother was able to help me. And that was kind of cool. Got to teach him a little bit. Hopefully, we'll teach him a little bit when we're disassembling this thing. But this thing, compared to the little 302 block we have over here, it's hilarious. It's tiny. I picked up some painter stuff, face shield, a couple other things. I did pick up a respirator finally, because I am sure people are gonna be mad at me for poisoning my lungs, inhaling all this shit. But the underside of this car is looking a lot better. I trimmed down that piece right there, but I'm gonna get my grinder out. I had to get a face shield because it's just too much shit flying in my face. But I'll replace all the seals and bearings in this 9-inch, and hopefully it'll hold up good. But if not, I mean, there's always another 9-inch. It's gonna be a 4-link setup, so it should be pretty easy to swap in and out. Just have to make sure we measure from where we are. Plus I work at a speed shop now, so it shouldn't be that hard. But I think everything's really cleaned up down here. I know it's not show quality, but compared to the way it was, I mean, this is 1000% better. So we're only enhancing this car. Alright, so I haven't really discussed how the big block is going to go. So this is, apparently it says it's a 396 block. From what I could find, it says it's a L4 block /9. It has the high purr in the back with the F4. To my understanding, this is something produced from 1969 to 73, so kind of a rare block. I need to get some brake clean and clean off the surface and see if I can find that ID number on this thing. But yeah, I also need to pull the pan. I don't know if it's a 4-bolt or a 2-bolt main. I'm just gonna go ahead and make the assumption that it's a 2-bolt. I know in the code as well, it says it could be a 402, and I think if you bore it, it becomes a 402. And if you look at the pistons, I think I cleaned one of them up on one side of this block. I did notice this little casting in here, and it says, if you can read that, let's go, we're upside down right now. It says 30 right there, so it's definitely a 30 over. This block has been machined before, but we're gonna take it to our machinist, Tommy Goza, around here in Ackworth, Georgia. He's been doing this stuff since my dad was working on these cars, so probably over 50 years now, and he's really experienced. So hopefully we can get put on the list and get this block machined and find out what rotating assembly we're going to go with, because we need something big. I want to eventually do a forced induction on this root style. So for now, what the plan is we're going to do some Pro Max heads. I've heard okay things about them. They're as cast. The reason I'm going with those is the as cast heads will work better and be cheaper, cost effective, I guess is the word. So that way, because when you're under boost, you don't need the CNC porting. It certainly is going to help, but there was an episode of Engine Masters where they showed that an as cast head compared to a CNC ported or a ported head is not that big of a deal. I mean, obviously if you're going to pour it out a lot, it's going to make a difference, but the CNC finish is not a huge deal when it comes to induction when it's under boost. So hopefully those will do fine. They'll make some good power and be a heck of a lot lighter than stock heads, and they're dirt cheap. I'll get some good valve springs for it, get like a Comps retrofit like mother thumper with a hydraulic roller lifters, and should be able to make this thing make at least 400 or 500 horsepower to the crank pretty easily. And these things like to rev to about 65 to my understanding, so we'll really make this thing cook pretty good. In this little Camaro, I'm thinking we do some Mike Finnegan's inspired pull, you know, just like right there with the angle grinder, and we just get like a tunnel ram eventually, and then we'll go to the forced induction. So this car will be fast, I swear. The really great thing is I live about 45 minutes away from Paradise Drag Strip, so hopefully we can at least test our stuff on the 8th mile, and then the nearest quarter mile, unfortunately, is about 4 hours away, so I may have to get the trailers out to go down there. But really excited for this build. Hopefully it goes smooth. If you guys were ever wondering why my videos take so long to come out, and they kind of come out in big bunches, it's because this is kind of my typical day after work. Just doing a little bit work on the project cars that I try to drive and work on at the same time, so never really are they parked for long. So changing the plugs and plug wires on the truck, and realized I forgot to hook up 2 plug wires after I replaced the valve cover gasket, so they've just been dangling, and that's why I've noticed a lack of power, because I'm down 2 cylinders. Anyways, the plugs are about due for a change because they are really disgusting. I mean, isn't that... Granted, those are the 2 cylinders that weren't hooked up to the distributor, so it makes sense why they have fuel on them, but just the soot, it was due for a change. So yep, quick shot, by the way, of my RC car holder. Finally got it set up. Okay, so I got the crank bolt on here. There's a little bit of a gap, but I'm assuming that is for balancer, all that. Normally those go on flush, so it just kind of confuses me a little bit, but regardless, the threads are pretty dirty from it sitting outside, needs to be cleaned. And I don't even know if I'm going to use this crank, so it might be garbage anyways. But spinning everything around, and it's kind of neat. I did this with my small block Ford when I had disassembled it, but you can see, let me try and get my shadow out of the way. You can see all the pistons firing. Sorry, I'm trying to spin it at the same time, but it's kind of neat. And you can see how these pistons are, like, for at least this big block Chevy, kind of dome shaped. When I took my small block Ford apart, there were little tiny valve reliefs, and that was about it. It looked almost like a flat top piston, so it's just something different. It's kind of cool. But yes, again, you can see it says 30 over. I think it's on this one, but you won't be able to see because it's too dark. But yeah, so okay, so got all the pistons out, and the bores actually don't look all that bad. There is a good amount of I mean, the ring ridge isn't that bad. You can definitely see there was some skirt wear, but overall I think this engine block will clean up pretty nicely. I couldn't get the crank out today because I don't have the right socket for it. I still got to pick up a lot of tools for the house. I just moved in, but I'm going to try and research this crankshaft and see if maybe it's forged or something. That would be really convenient if it was, because then maybe we can try and reuse these pistons. What I did find out though, these are like Speed Pro, I think is what they're called, but these are aftermarket pistons that with forged aluminum heads, so they actually are pretty decent. You know, I looked at the pricing new and they're like 600 bucks, so hopefully we can reuse those, get some forged rods if we don't already have them, and then go from there. But so far this buy has been definitely worth it, because I don't know if I've shown, but I got a set of Edelbrock chrome valve covers, and then I also got an Edelbrock Performer RPM dual plane. So yeah, I mean, so far definitely worth it in parts at the very least. If the block isn't salvageable, I mean, we're making our money back at the very least. So we're gonna keep going. I'm gonna do some more research. Looks like I've got a good casting number right there I can look up. Go from there. Bouncing back over to the Camaro's differential. I've got a rebuild kit for it, and I took some wire wheels and a couple other things and got her all cleaned up. A couple cans of brake clean, and she's ready for some paint. I don't have to be super careful because I'm not really keeping very much from inside there. I just want to clean up the housing a little bit. Use some black engine enamel. Should be good. Okay, so making some progress on the 396. Got everything else ready to go to the machine shop. So we're gonna go drop it off.